All right, we are live. Welcome to episode 31 of the InnerStrength Empowerment Hour. LT just informed me we've been doing this for about 8 months, which is really hard to believe and super exciting. I want to thank everyone who is joining us today via Facebook. Even if you're just watching the replay, we're glad to have you here. I am here with my success coaches, Joanne and LT. And our special guest, Nancy, who is one of my clients, and I'm so grateful that she's here to talk to us today about this subject. So what we've been talking about is the 4 agreements. This is a book by Don Miguel Ruiz. It's about 25 years old. And I realized that I read this recently and realized this is how I came across the book, is that Oprah actually was talking about this many, many, many years ago when it first came out. And that's how I heard about it. So I've had the book for a very long time. And we use the book as part of our book club that we do inside my program, which is the Plant Power Revolution. So for those of you who see people posting things in or from the Plant Power Army, that is part of my program. And so whether this isn't necessarily, I wanted to kind of put a disclaimer on it this week, because it's not, even though he talks about in the book, the Toltec religion, it's not necessarily, you don't have to take these as religious principles. These are just general life principles, and you can take from them what you need. And that's what I do with everything I read, whether it is, a self-help book or, something like this, or, even, there's great things you can just learn and think about even in a fiction book. So whatever is going on in your life, you can take what you need. And so that's why we're talking about these 4 agreements, because there's something that we can take from each of them to help us live our lives. And so I asked Nancy to come on today, and I just want to acknowledge that she has had an amazing transformation. And in addition to the joy that I have had working with her, she has worked really closely with Joanne, her personal coach. And so we'll get to that here in a little bit. But I wanted to, Nancy, if you could tell us a little bit about yourself to start, just to introduce yourself.
My name is Nancy. I am not a young thing.
That's not true.
No, right. It's a mindset, right?
It is.
No, I am a mother of 5. My children are all grown. They are 31 down to 22, 4 boys and 1 girl. Life has been a journey full of ups and downs, getting to where I am today. That's the love of my children is very important to me, and family is big, and friends. But I am that's me. I mean, I work in a prison. I deal with lots of fun things every day, and I've had to learn how to live my life like the second agreement to survive. So we'll get into more of that in a little bit. So
yeah,
that's me in a nutshell.
It is such a juxtaposition to hear you talking about love and then say, I work in a prison.
Yeah.
So I would love, later we may ask you a question about that, just to get an idea of how you are staying in love and gratitude while you work in that environment. Because I think that could be a lesson for all of us, no matter what we do for a living. But tell us you've been in my program for about 21 months, something like that?
Yeah, right about that, yeah.
Okay. And tell us a little bit about what your life and your health and your weight were like when you came into the program.
So I had a health scare. I thought I was having a heart attack. Went to the emergency room, and my ex-husband was like, "Oh no, you're just having a panic attack, Nancy." I'm like, "I've never had a panic attack. At 50, you think I would have had panic attacks before." And the nurse even says, she's like, "If this is a panic attack, it is the calmest panic attack I've ever seen." So, but I didn't have a heart attack. I just had an episode with my heart, but it was an eye opener to me to say, you need to do something different. My weight was the heaviest I've ever been. My activity was pretty much non-existent, which is different for me because I've always been very health conscious and very physically active. So I'd gotten to a point where I wasn't. And it was all because I hated myself. I really did not like myself at all. And so I just let myself go. And the eye opener was, as I was headed down the same path for years that I had tried to avoid, because health, heart issues in my family is number one. And I didn't want to be like everybody else in my family, live long, painful lives that, well into my 80s and be on medications and not able to move and just be in a lot of pain. And that's not what I wanted. So I went on this journey to discover who I was and become happy and healthy along the way. So that's what led me to you, was to figure out how to eat plant-based, because I knew that was the direction I wanted to go, but I didn't know how to go there.
Right.
And so that was my initial finding was, how do I get there? That and hot flashes. I was having hot flashes terribly. Oh my gosh. It was insane. I couldn't sleep because I was like one constant hot flash. And that was the other part of it too. Yeah.
We've talked about that a lot in this group, because that's something, especially LT and I have experienced with the night sweats.
Oh
my God, it's just debilitating. I mean,
yes.
Unbelievable. And so, and that is, it becomes like this focal point in your life when it's happening all the time.
Right.
And it's something you just dread. So, and you can't sleep and you're not getting good rest. And so it just kind of, so you said that you didn't like yourself at the time. What do you think led up to that in your life?
It's interesting because looking back, now that I'm where I'm at, I don't think I ever really liked myself. Honestly, there was a lot of things that occurred in my childhood that, like most of us, that made me believe I wasn't good enough, that I wasn't a voice to be heard. And so I found my happiness was pleasing others. And that's how I discovered happiness for me. So it was making my basketball coach happy because I played hard, making my school teacher happy because I did well, and I wanted to be there to help them, things like that. And that's who I became. I became a people pleaser because that's what made me happy. At least I thought what made me happy,
Right.
but I never knew how to make myself happy.
And that's such a great point, because as long as we are using other people's opinions of us to identify who we are instead of us deciding, then you're always at the mercy of whatever they think, whether
Always.
it's good or bad. It doesn't matter, but it's their decision, not yours.
And I cared. Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead.
I just say I cared so much how they felt about me that, anything they said determined how I felt. So, I mean, the second agreement was my life. It truly was. I took everything personally because that's all I could do.
Right. And so I remember when you and I first started working together, and even though you had signed up and you had, like you said, you had this health scare, and you were like, I've got to do something. It was still really, really difficult for you. And you spent a few months at a standstill trying to figure out how to move forward. What do you think was the point where you finally said, I'm doing this, enough is enough?
Because when I started, I was still at the mercy of the opinion of others. And the main one was my second husband. He was very much, why do you still have to eat? Why do you have to be this way? Just be, and so I did things thinking that was what he would make him happy and make us happy. And I finally had to get to a point where I was at my lowest I think I'd ever been in my life, where I finally had to say, how do I get out of it? Because this is not where I'm supposed to be. And that was when the true change came, was when I realized that it was about me and how I needed to be happy, and I needed to take control of things for me. I mean, I used to say the reason I wanted to lose weight was to be healthy, but it wasn't. I wanted to lose weight to look good, to please others, and that's ultimately what it came down to. And it wasn't, I was lying to myself. And it's when I became honest with myself
Right.
and stopped listening to the lies, that's when I was able to make the change.
And it sounds like with your second husband that he wasn't going to be happy no matter what you did.
He would not have, no. And I had to realize that. Then that was it. And I thought what I was doing was affecting how he treated me, how he talked to me, how he was towards me.
Mm-hmm.
And I had to realize that was him making those decisions, not anything to do with me. And so no matter what I did, that wasn't going to change ever.
So when you did actually commit and start changing your diet, how did that impact the people around you, including him?
It was interesting because it impacted the people I work with the most, actually. And my children, and my kids noticed the biggest difference in me. They really did. But my ex-husband, not so much, because he was in the point of, he was ready to give up on the marriage. Mm-hmm. And so all it did was make it harder for him, because he had already resigned that it was going to end. He just had to figure out a way to blame himself. But because I was changing to become a better person, he no longer could blame me for it. Mm-hmm. And make it about him. So he had to figure out a way to blame me for it. So it just prolonged the end of that marriage a little bit longer, I guess.
Yeah.
But no, the biggest, and at that point, because he had already resolved that it was going to be over anyway. So, but the biggest difference, my kids have been my champions through all of this, and they've been so supportive, and they're the ones that noticed the biggest change in me. And friends too. People had seen me that hadn't seen me in a while, and they were like, "Oh my gosh, you are night and day." Not even the same.
So can you say more about that? Because physically, you've lost how much weight?
Just right around 70 pounds.
Yeah. So we've
a small person. Yeah.
We posted the before and after here in the group before, and your results have been amazing. But I'm sure when people are saying it's like night and day, that's not really even what they're talking about. So they're not talking about the weight. Tell me what they're talking about.
Just the way I look, just the way I feel, as far as like my energy, my spirit, just my overall, I don't know how to explain it, because it's not the weight at all. They get the, oh my gosh, you've lost weight, but that's not what the difference is. The difference is the way I respond to people, the way I act, who I present myself as when I come into a room. I'm no longer that person who's in pain and just kind of there. I am a presence now, and happy, and it's very noticeable. It's a big difference.
So tell us all the ways, besides the weight loss, and besides the empowerment, and this is the same thing that happened to me, and we'll get to Joanne and Lori in a minute, because I know it's happened to them as well. We think the weight is the problem, but it's actually a symptom.
Right.
And as we start to work on the weight, we start to realize the pipeline of problems that have caused this symptom.
Right.
And as we work on that, it peels back those layers that we have been encased under, and it really, you start to become the person you were meant to be. And so that's happened to all of us. Can you tell us the ways that your life has changed since you started this?
Oh gosh, how hasn't it changed?
So you're divorced now, yes?
I am. I'm divorced now. I purchased my own little teeny tiny 1-bedroom townhome that, it's mine. And I was always told I never could afford anything on my own. I never could do this on my own. I'm extremely independent. And you know what? The best part is I really don't care about what anybody says or thinks anymore. And for me to say that, that's huge. And I think that's been for me, is that I don't walk around worrying about what somebody's going to say and how that's going to affect me. And it's just I've become so much freer and happier, because I'm not ruled by that anymore. I've always been a very spiritual person. And I've always been one who's always tried to learn from others' experiences, but never my own. And I think taking ownership of my own experiences in all of this and stop. I was the biggest one of telling myself lies. I was. I was the queen of beating myself up, and not doing that anymore. Just, I mean,
So coming from a place, it's the difference between coming from a place of loathing yourself and thinking, I've got to get this weight off, something's got to change, all that stuff that we go through in our head because you're hating yourself the whole time, and saying, I love myself and
right.
I am doing this for me because I love me the way I am.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And it's exactly the way it is. I can honestly say that I do. I love myself. I love where my life is. And I never, I'm 52 years old. I never thought I would ever say that, honestly. And I think you really hit it well when you said that, all the things that we come up with, because my whole life was always about feeling it with hobbies, sewing, knitting, service. I mean, all kinds of things that I did just trying to make myself feel better, and nothing worked. And I was constantly on that quest to find something to make me feel better.
And that's
yeah,
exactly how we fall into food addiction, right?
right.
Because it's this temporary, like, I feel bad, I feel bad, I feel bad. I just need to get to the nearest thing that's going to make me feel better. And so whether, it means that we're constantly either looking to food, to alcohol, to bad relationships, or to, like you said, like, okay, I'm going to get real about this. What I need is a hobby, and I'm going to do this, or I'm going to volunteer, and and it's not even that some of those things are not intrinsically bad things,
Right.
but it's not getting to the heart of the issue.
Exactly. And when I really put on the last bit of weight, it was almost like a self-sabotage, like almost like I was so done with not being happy and not being myself, that it was kind of my way of just giving up,
Yeah.
of just being able to just say, I'm just going to eat whatever I want and I don't care anymore.
Right.
Why should I try to be healthy? Why should I try to be happy? Because it doesn't make a difference. I'm just going to eat myself to oblivion. That's kind of where I was headed.
So, Joanne, you and Nancy have worked closely together. So I would love it if you could give us your perspective on her transformation, because it has been a total life transformation. I know now, let me just say this too. I know that you are a huge yogi now. Yes?
I am. I do yoga. Oh gosh, as often as I can, 3-4 times
Yeah.
a week minimum. And I want to, my goal is to be able to teach,
Yeah.
and not just practice, just to
Yeah.
help others. Yeah. It's
Yeah.
wonderful.
Yeah. Yes, promote yoga. We
Oh, it's
love, love,
amazing.
love, love yoga.
I
It is.
know.
It's yoga. It really is on and off the mat. It is
It
not
is.
just something that affects you when you're doing yoga. It's not just something that affects you when you're in yoga class or doing your own practice. It actually affects you throughout your life. And so, well, we'll talk about that some other time, but that, yeah, little plug for yoga there.
Yeah.
Joanne, tell us your perspective here.
Well, I've been working with Nancy for a long, long time. She was one of my very first clients. And in the beginning, I was thinking about how our conversations used to go in the beginning. And she honestly, not to throw you under a bus right now, but you literally wouldn't even text me back sometimes, because I think, she was so in denial of, she wanted to change, but she didn't want to change, or just didn't know how. And I remember the conversations were very deep and very sad, and her energy was very sad, and you were injured a lot of the time.
Yeah.
Like you had a lot of pain, a lot of knee pain, and a lot of just a lot of mental things you were going through. And I thought, in the beginning, I was just like, I don't know how to help her. I can't, like, she's so deep in the self-loathing. And that day you told me you were leaving your husband, I was like, what? And ever since that day, and that was prolonged. You're right. That from the day you decided it was over till it actually happened was quite a long time. for all those reasons you talked about, but the energy changed in that moment when you said, I'm getting an apartment, I'm going to have roommates, and then I'm going to buy my own when you said you were going to buy your own place, your energy like completely shifted. And I remember asking you, are you going to be able to get any of the stuff out of your old house, like your furniture or whatever? And you just said, I'm not taking one thing out of that house. I am when I tell you I'm starting fresh, I mean fresh. And you didn't take anything. So that's when your energy changed, and just like, it's just skyrocketed since then.
Yeah. I remember, having those conversations with you, Joanne, at the beginning, as your coach, like you saying, I don't know how we're going to help Nancy, and us both knowing that it had to be Nancy's decision.
Yeah.
But I also remember you messaging me and saying, she's leaving her husband. I might have been more that, but I was like, yes, she's leaving her husband. Yeah. Because relationships are, not to glorify divorce, because if anyone who's been divorced knows it's horrible, but it is, sometimes it's, you have to leave toxic relationships.
Well, and I was rereading the Second Agreement this week multiple times, and I love this book, by the way. It just resonated so much with me. And in it talked about how, sometimes it's okay to walk away from people in your life that don't care or care about you or love you, and we try to hold on to these relationships that we think we're supposed to, but it's okay to walk away from something that is hurting us in ways that we never realized before. And actually staying is hurting us more than walking away.
You're getting just so you know, Nancy, you're getting a bunch of love right now. A bunch of love comments on Facebook for that. Exactly. It doesn't, I can't tell you how many times people have said to me, I can't believe you don't see your mom. That's your mom. Like, well, you only get one mom. And I'm like, well, thank God, because I couldn't have dealt with two. I mean, when is it okay? When somebody does enough stuff, it doesn't matter who they are. It is okay for you to set that boundary and say enough is enough. Right. So I salute you with that. Now, tell us, and you got a comment from Gina, who says she can relate to how you felt, and she is getting there to love herself. And so tell us how this has affected you in your profession at the prison, because I'm really interested. If you're showing up as a different person, that's got to have an effect.
I've always treated the offenders with respect and kindness, because they're just people like you and me, and so I treat them the same. Where it's made a big difference is with the coworkers, because the attitude of working in a prison is very hard. It's very tenuous, and and it hardens people. It really does. What most people look at as difficult becomes your norm, and you find ways of coping with it, and it's typically not the best ways of coping. And so by going in and having a sense of, and being happy and positive, it resonates to others, and it helps them be more able to cope with the day. And I find that
your vibration.
Correct. And so it attracts more people to me to feel that. And they do. It's different. I find people come to talk directly to me that never used to come and talk to me before, just to kind of get that little sense of, okay, I'm okay now. Now I can go back out into this world and deal with it. So it's become like their little safe haven to come and talk to Nancy. So
what a blessing for you and for them. That is incredible. So what do you feel is, I'm assuming like everybody else in the world, even though I don't remember talking to you about this, that you yo-yo dieted like all of us.
Oh yeah, I did.
Yeah. So what do you feel is different about joining my program?
I always knew that whatever changes I made, it had to be a lifestyle. you know, and so I always told myself that, but once I always would get the weight off, I'd be like, okay, but now I can have my cookies again and I'd be okay. And, you know, so that's one of the big differences is it truly is a lifestyle for me now. I think it's just changing from a normal food to, I call it normal food, you know, American diet
The
versus
standard American diet. Yeah.
standard American diet versus, you know, plant-based, you know, that's a huge shift in and of itself. And so, and having that commitment never to go back. But I think that the key to all of it is the mental aspect of it, that the piece that has helped me really delve into me and, help me understand my relationship with food, help me understand my relationship with myself, help me to look at all these parts and pieces as a whole and not just the food as what as the only person. And that's the key, I think, is more than anything is the mindset around all of it and just the guidance and the coaching. I mean, having you there first, Lori, has been amazing. And then transitioning to Joanne and having Joanne be there in my corner and helping me understand all that's going on. I mean, like she said, I mean, I was in such pain in my life and being through that with people that understood it and could help and to get you to that next, you know, be with you on that journey to that next point, and then giving me books to read or, you know, things like this to watch, to listen to other people's stories and go, oh, I am not alone in this journey at all, am I? I am like one in how many now? And realizing that and seeing that it is possible to move beyond the pain and the hurt and the trauma and all of that. I think that has been the biggest key to all of it, is it's more than just a way of eating. It's a life. It's who we are, and becoming happy with myself and being given the tools to learn how to do that. Yes. Where I think that's the big missing piece in everything else that I've done.
Oh, I agree. It's hard for me to relay to people what we mean by personal coaching. It's not just somebody that you're like, hey, how many calories is in this or something, right. Or, you know, like it really is, you know, how do I get healthy inside and out when I'm struggling?
Right.
You know, and yeah, so having somebody there that you can really talk to who can relate is just beyond anything else that we know as part of the $1 trillion diet industry in this world.
Right.
Is there anything, I know we got, you know, what would you like to say to people who are feeling stuck? Because I know that even though, you know, like we talked about, you signed up for the program, you were still feeling stuck.
I was, yeah. You know, it was the hardest part for me when I was stuck was I didn't want to move beyond because I was afraid. I didn't know what was going to come out the other side. I didn't. I was afraid to let go because I'd been holding on to all of that hurt and all of that trauma for so many years. I thought that that's what defined me, and I didn't know what Nancy really was supposed to be.
Yeah.
And now I look back and I'm like, why didn't I do that years ago? You know?
Right. So would you say, in terms of what our topic is this week, that you went from taking whatever anybody else said about you as truth, correct, to defining that for yourself?
Oh.
And it is scary. It's scary.
Well, because like I said, I was the queen of loathing myself. I was the queen of, I listened to truths that weren't true that I was telling myself, more so than what everybody else was saying. And I think that was why I was so stuck, is because I perpetuated that in myself. And I had to stop that. And I had to say enough. And it's interesting because I don't even think about it anymore. I don't even think about what somebody's saying and, oh, I'm sorry, that's your opinion, not mine. But man, when I first started this, I had to really try to be positive and look at everything. And you know, I was going to counseling at the time as well, through personal counseling, because I had a lot of trauma from my childhood that I had to deal with, which was important to deal with as well. And, you know, we all have to deal with it in different ways. And so I was getting help dealing with that trauma. And she also helped me understand as well the importance of, look, what you did and the response you get from your ex-husband, that's his response. You are not responsible for that response. And so I had to learn that. And so I had to go from thinking about everything negatively in my life to, I had to figure out a way to think about things positively. And I started with writing 3 things down a day that I thought were good about my day. And it was silly things to start with, like my hair was okay. Seriously. Or, I didn't take things personally at work today or something. I had to start to identify those things and make them real in my life. And that's how I started it all, was to sit there and say, I need to change the way I'm thinking. Mm-hmm. And change is not easy. Change is hard. Change is scary. And especially when you've been living that way for so many years, you just,
that's your comfort zone, even if it sucks. Even if it's horrible, that is your comfort zone.
Right. Yeah. And so why leave it? Because you keep coming back to it over and over and over again. So why would you leave it? Right. So I had to, like I said, I had to force myself to find positives with me. And, and it was silly things like, again, like I said, I went for a walk and, the sun was out. Yeah. That's how basic I had to start, know, and people don't realize that that's okay to start that way.
That's right.
And, and now it's gone so much beyond that. It's incredible. I am, Joanna and I have had this conversation multiple times about how, just not ever looking back at that person again, because it's painful to see where I allowed myself to go. And I think the hardest part for me was, dang, I was such a bad role model for my 5 kids. Yeah. What did I teach them? How did I, and I see, because of what I allowed myself to let happen to me, how that's affected them as adults, but they're working through it as well. And they have to work through it too, but they see where I have become, where I've gotten to, and they realize that it's okay to be where they are, because they have to figure out their own journey and that path. And my success and my happiness has helped them understand that it's possible for them. And they're young enough that I hope that they get it in their 20s versus waiting until they're 50 to finally get it. Right. And I think even if we live in the healthiest, happiest world, we all have these issues that we still deal with, especially as women. We always are comparing ourselves to other people, always. And even if, when I was playing basketball in college and in high school and sports, I was 145 pounds at 6 feet tall. That's nothing. That is like a tiny little thing. And I thought I was extremely overweight, and that's because of the images that around me that I felt like I had to live up to. And we as women are faced with that every day, and it's just getting to that point where that doesn't matter, that we just love ourselves for who we are and where we are. And that
is how you get to your goal. It's when we are constantly comparing that we end up self-sabotaging, because you feel like, I'm never going to get there. What's the point? You just start spinning out. And I think I just wanted to touch on something else that you said, which is that both for at work and then also just with your life, whatever we think about ourselves, we attract people into our lives that think the same thing.
Right.
And so when, you are filled with self-doubt, self-loathing, all of that stuff, you're going to invite somebody who agrees with you. You're going to invite somebody who says, you know what, you're not capable. And you know what, you're not so great. And, so as opposed to, if you really feel that self-worth, you don't tolerate those people. And those people kind of bounce off of you. And the people that you attract into your life are people who agree with you that, like, yeah, you are worth it. You're all that and a bag of chips, Nancy.
That's right.
So that is the amazing thing, is when you have to change your own mind. You can't change the minds of the people around you. And that's, I think, what the basis of this agreement is about. It's about making up your own mind and realizing that people have their own baggage that they're bringing to the table, their own thoughts and whatever motivations and stuff. And you don't have to internalize that unless you choose to.
Right. It's so true. You really don't. And I think too, is getting to that point with yourself as well, not believing yourself and walking away from that person that we are comfortable with as well.
Mhm.
I mean, I've had friends that I've had for years that I thought were family, that, you know, we were that close, that because of my change, they're not even around anymore. And you know what? And it's okay.
It's okay.
It is okay. And I'm happy that I'm attracting people that are in a different place, because Nancy's never going back to Nancy.
Yeah. This is Nancy 2.0. I know Joanne said
Yes.
Nancy 2.0.
And it is. And, you know, and it's to think that we allow ourselves to be treated the way that we do.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's hard to look back sometimes to see the pain that I was in and where I allowed myself to become, how easily I just gave up everything just to please others. You know, and
But you're so close to it still, that I can tell you from experience, the further you get away from it, the easier it is to look back.
yeah.
I don't know that it ever, I don't know if it ever gets easy, but it gets easier.
Right. It doesn't have as much pain in it anymore.
Well, because I'm so different now, that I actually feel like I wish that person was here, so that I could just give her a hug and be like, here's what you need to do. We got this, you know?
And, you know, I actually had to go through a lot of that in my own mind. I did. I had to envision these parts of Nancy that were so broken at all these different times in my life. And I had to go in, you know, and get to a place, and I had to bring her in and just say, it's okay. Look what you're becoming. Yeah. You're going to be all right.
Yeah.
You know, and I had to go back and heal those people, heal those individuals that were in so much pain, and tell her, you know what, look what I'm becoming. It's all good.
Right.
You know?
Yeah. And just for those of you out there, something that we talk about a lot in the group is like visualization or meditation can be really helpful for that. For really, you know, visualizing that person and your higher self being able to comfort that person and say, you know, you got this. It's hard right now, but you've got it. And like you said, look where we're going. And it's a great place to be.
Yes.
So Nancy, thank you so much for coming on. And this was just, I was so excited to have you and to talk about your journey, because things have changed so much for you. I know that it has been an absolute joy for me to see your transformation. And I know Joanne feels that way as well. So thank you so much.
Oh, thank you. I wouldn't be here today without the support of, you know, you, Joanne, and even LT. I mean, even though we haven't worked together, you know, just having people there in your corner and being like, you're doing a great job, keep it up. You know, when you struggle with things, you post it and giving those encouragements. You guys have made, I have made friends for life. Yeah. And, you know, I look forward to the day we all can meet and give each other big hugs.
I know.
That's what I'm looking forward to.
For sure. And we were actually talking about that before COVID hit. And then, you know, obviously that went on hold. But yes, someday I would love to do that. Beach retreat for sure. And Gina says, thank you, Nancy. So happy for you and good to see you smiling. So
yeah, Gina, thank you.
All right. All right. Thanks, Nancy.
All right. Bye.
Bye-bye. All right. So, oh my gosh, what a great conversation.
I know it.
So I wanted to talk to you guys about this same stuff because we all are on our journeys together for this, and especially for women, this is a huge deal. And I think with this particular agreement about not taking things personally, again, it means something a little different to everybody. Because in your life, there's a certain way, obviously, because it's personal, that you're taking things personally. So I wanted to ask both of you, have you interpreted this agreement to start? And what is it, in relation to your life and your life experiences? What is your interpretation?
Well, for me, I think interpreting it more so of like understanding myself, it really helped me to understand myself better. And I think it was speaking in a way that kind of encourages you to understand where you're coming from, so that you can better understand when you're out around other people where they're coming from. And, there was a part in there that said, when you take something personally, you're like assuming almost that that person knows everything about your world, and they don't. And just like you don't know everything about their world. And so everybody's coming at situations from their own perspective. And I think once you really understand that about yourself, then that's what the agreement meant to me.
Yeah. What about you, LT?
Yeah, I used to take things personally like it was my job. I mean, sensitive, highly sensitive, and read the room wrong, read tones wrong. A lot of things were said that was not intended to be said that way. And I know I did it as well. So it goes both ways, but I would let somebody absolutely get me in a funk for the rest of the day. And then that would go on to some sort of a binge or drive through or self-soothing with food, because that's what I did. And, I have just been so rooted in my mindset and the way I've just changed the way completely about what I think about myself, that I honestly can see when people do that now, that hurt people really do hurt people.
Yeah.
And I see it for what it is. And I think, gosh, they've got a lot going on behind those eyes. Something's really, really, really wrong. And I can see it that way and I can walk away from it.
Yeah.
Whereas before I would have allowed it to destroy me, whether or not I even cared about this person. I mean, a stranger could have said something to me and I could have just gone AWOL with it because I was just so sensitive. And of course, when a family member did it, forget it. I was wrecked.
Well, I think it goes back to what we were saying at the beginning, and what Nancy was saying is that if you already are struggling with your opinion of yourself,
yes,
and then you have any kind of negative input, which we often do when we are already in a negative place, you're just inviting negative input anyway. But any negative input is just going to put you over the edge.
That's what it was.
It does just make you feel like you're at the mercy of everybody around you and what they think, whether it, like you said, whether it's strangers, whether it's your boss, whether it's your spouse, even your kids. Any of us who have teenagers know that they can flatten you right now with a well.
Oh yeah.
Oh yes.
My son is the king on that. Just like seems to know exactly what to say, just like,
right.
And it's hard. It is hard to be resilient in the midst of all of that. So now the way I look at this agreement is a filtration system, because it's not that you never take things personally, right? Because
that's right.
You can't, you have to learn. So sometimes people are saying things that are in some way, shape, or form useful to you. They're valid. And so I know for me, what I do now is I evaluate, okay, how much is this person's baggage and that I can discard? And how much of this, if anything, is something I need to evaluate in terms of, can I grow from this? Is there any validity here? And so it's that, what that does for me is it takes the knee-jerk reaction out of things and the emotional charge out of every single interaction, and allows me to just be like, all right, okay, so this person's carrying some baggage around, so I can choose whether or not I'm going to pick that baggage up, depending on what it is they actually said.
That's right.
How has this played out in your lives? How do you feel that it's different? Your interactions with your family or with your friends or with, whoever, how do you feel like your decision to not take everything personally is affecting your relationships?
I think mostly with my husband, it has changed a lot of things, because now I recognize where he's coming from, and like you said, what baggage he's bringing. And it's not a situation like Nancy where he's so negative that nobody's ever going to win, but he's coming from a place where he doesn't have the right communication skills. He's coming from a place where he was very controlled as a child. He's coming from a place where he's coming from, how in the first agreement we talked about your soil and how you fertilize your own soil. He's coming from a place of soil that was fertilized with the wrong things. So now that I can understand that about myself, I can understand it about him. And so I don't put my happiness, or, like you get married and you think, oh, well, my husband's supposed to make me happy and we're supposed to live this happily ever after. Yeah, right. So anybody that's married knows that. But I don't put my happiness in his basket to make that his responsibility. My happiness is my responsibility. And we are working now on, how he communicates, because that's where I've had to set some boundaries. Just because he's coming from a background of where that was okay, that's not okay here in this environment. It's not a healthy way, and it's not an okay thing. And that's not what we're gonna move forward. We're never gonna get anywhere if we keep doing that. So
right.
I think that's been some conversations, but even coming into that conversation is so different from where I came at it 10 years ago, because we've been having the same conversation. We've been married 21 years and it's always been a problem. So now I don't come at it as, oh my God, why would you act that way and try to hurt my feelings? He's not doing it to hurt my feelings. He's doing it because that's his perspective. So I don't get offended. I don't try to defend why he shouldn't do that, or, I don't have that response anymore. And it's so much nicer. It's so much calmer.
Your response now is to say, that's not okay, and set boundaries.
Set a boundary, or I'm just as fine to just say, oh, okay, I can see you're in that place. I'll see you later. I'm going for a run, or I'm going for a bike ride, because the energy is bad. And I walk away from bad energy now. And like LT said, sometimes if one comment could unravel you for the whole day, that's what it used to be like. I used to be like, oh my God, my whole life is falling apart. We're going to be divorced. We're going to be like, I used to go there. Like I used to tailspin about it. And now I'm like, yeah, there that is again. And I just walk away, and I don't take it personally. I don't take it as an attack against me. I just take it as, well, he's in that mood, or he's in that place where he doesn't know how to communicate a certain thing. And I'll come back later when he's in a better place. And it's like a miracle's happened.
Now, do you feel like he's actually beginning to make changes because of this?
I do, because and it doesn't just revolve around our, getting along together. It's his view on finances. It's his view on his job and the boundaries he is unable to set with his coworkers and his boss. And, and I have been able, now that I understand all of this and understand myself, I've been able to say it to him in a way that he's receptive to. And he said to me probably about a month ago, said something to the effect of, I am listening to the things you say now, and I understand, and I am making these changes. So I don't know what those changes are. I'm not going to dig deeper, but I think he is starting to understand that he's in control of himself, because I think even men are, if they're raised in a certain way and in a certain environment, they don't feel like they're in control of their own situations either. So, you know, I think it's good for both of us to understand that that's where we're both coming from.
And as you become more empowered, that is such, it's exactly what Nancy said, you know, you inspire the people around you.
Yeah.
To become more empowered. And
Mhm.
as you set boundaries, instead of, you know, if it's the right people, obviously some people you set boundaries with, and that's just the end of it, you know, that's happening, you know, to me for sure. But sometimes, you know, with the right people, you're setting boundaries, and not only do they respond to that, but they start being like, I could set a boundary too.
Yeah.
Like, hey, I might actually get healthier as a response to this.
Right.
And I know, you know, that you're doing this same kind of work a little bit with you have teenage daughters.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yes,
you're
I do.
teaching them. Like, yes, I do. Girl,
well, and you know, the boundary I've set with them, because, you know, this whole Friday morning thing is during the school year was such a big to do, because they were on Zoom. The house is built, you know, back in the 80s when everything's paper thin, and it was difficult for us to all be on Zoom calls together. And there was just always conflict revolving around it. Well, now that it's summer, I set the boundary. I said, you know, every Friday at 11 a.m. my time, you know, because that's my time. I told my husband, I said, I need you to take the kids and go to lunch at 11 a.m. and don't come back until my meeting is over. And don't come back. But I said, I need that 1 hour in the house by myself so that I can think. I can't be distracted. And the first week, everybody was like, oh, no, we got to get up by 11, you know, like, because they didn't want to get up. And now it's like, they've actually done it, and they've turned it into Friday fun days out with dad. So it's like, you know, all I had to do is set the boundary, say what I needed in a calm manner. And there we go. And now it's
let
working
them
out.
work it out, which is what they did. Instead of trying to then fix it because they were upset about it, you're just like, this is the boundary, you guys deal with it. And they did. They figured it out.
They figured it out on their own, because they all went off together and they had to figure it out. And I'm glad that they did, and I hope that gives them a little bit of growth.
Yeah. What about you, LT, with your relationships? How are you seeing things change?
The biggest change has been the relationship with myself, because I will say I'm very fortunate in a lot of areas. And now that I'm clear in my thinking and I'm honest with myself and I'm strong in my mindset, I was my own worst enemy. I treated myself horribly, talked to myself like a dog. People were not doing that to me. I was doing it to myself, and I allowed it to filter out into those people. And I've always had support from my husband, from my mother, from those closest to. I always have. Nobody's berated me or put me down. I've always had people in my corner, but I was not in my corner at all. And now that I am, I'm expressing more of my needs and what I need and what I want, instead of assuming that somebody is going to meet it and then I'm going to be disappointed. And if they don't respond back to me how I want them to, I'm not taking it personally and then lashing out on them about something because I thought they should have already known that. So how that looks in day-to-day life is when I put the dots real close together about what I need, I'm leveled up and met with that. And so it makes for a very happier household, a more pleasant, a more calm, a more balanced household, just a more lightness in spirit. There's just a joyfulness to it. I want to call it a playfulness. And I know that I've been looked at my whole life, even as a child, to set the tone of the home. My parents needed me as a buffer. And when things weren't going right, it wasn't going right with them, but I could lift them out of some things. And that was a lot of pressure. And then in my home, I could lift them out. But when I was so far in the pit, I couldn't lift them out. And everybody was, you know, getting crossways with each other. But so I find that I'm not seeing that as much anymore. And nothing has changed but me.
Yeah.
And my perspective and my filter and the way that I've worked on myself. And that's why I'm just overwhelmed with gratitude, because it's been there the whole time. The whole time.
Right.
I just see it crystal clear with a spotlight on it. And I'm appreciative that it's still there, because I could have really wrecked it for myself. And nobody would have been surprised. Nobody would have been shocked and been like, I can't believe he left her. I can't believe her house fell apart. Well, yeah, you could if you had been living with us and seen how I acted and talked and treated. But, you know, but I think that the biggest thing is when Tim told me that he didn't have to walk on eggshells anymore coming home, that he knew walking in that, you know, what it was going to be like. And gosh, I kept him in fear for so long, and the way I would just react to him. And most men just wouldn't have taken it. They really wouldn't have. I mean, I pushed him beyond his limit, really, if I think about it. But he did hang in there with me. Like I say, like a rusty fish hook, he hung in there. And I just attribute it to, he just loved me more than I loved myself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And now you guys are having quite the marital renaissance.
We really are.
And you also told me that around the holidays last year that some people who hadn't seen you for a while said, I mean, not just that you look different. So for those who don't know, LT has lost around 85 pounds. Is that right?
That's right.
But that you showed up differently.
That was my husband's sister. At Christmas, she said before she left, she said, I just want you to know that everything about you is different. Everything about you is better. She said, the way you walk in a room is better. The way you interact with us is better. My brother's so proud of you. He didn't even know what to do. I mean, I just was like, because I'd always wanted to hear it.
Yeah.
I'd always wanted to be that person. I just didn't know how to get her. So this program helped me get her. Finally got her back. And it's not just about weight at all. It ended up not even being about the weight. I get emotional because my life has completely changed in every area. Not one, not two, every area. And I'm so thankful for it. And I'm so thankful that I'm young enough and healthy enough to enjoy such a time as this.
Right.
You know, that I didn't do enough damage, that people walked away from me because they could have.
Well, number one, you're getting lots of likes and loves on Facebook. And I think that is the key for anyone watching, is that it is never too late.
Yeah,
No,
it's not.
Any one of us could have decided that.
Yeah.
Nancy could have decided it. I certainly,
Yes.
all of us could have. But when you have decided not to give up on yourself, when you decide that you can change your life, all you need then is the structure and support to make it happen.
That was exactly right. And I jumped in with both feet, and the structure and the support was there. The dots were very close together. And I just delved into it. I mean, I did. When you said jump, I said, how high do you want me to jump? Honestly, because I just knew that it was right. And you have not proved me wrong every step and turn of this program. And I have just gotten success after success. And I finally get to have that life that I had envisioned, but didn't think I would ever get, honestly. And when you have it, it's better than you can even really imagine, because you couldn't imagine all of this. You could only think a little finite number. It's really better than you even think. And it's areas that you didn't even know that you really needed.
yes.
It's a healing from top to bottom.
I tell people all the time, I mean, it's so great to lose the weight. I'm not going
it's awesome.
to say it's not.
Yeah.
It's pretty wonderful.
It is pretty great. But actually, that's not what keeps people going.
That's
What
right.
keeps people going is what we're talking about today, which is that you just feel amazing mentally and physically. Emotionally, you've unloaded so much, and you are, you're able to live your life in a joyful way
That's right.
that you couldn't have imagined before, like you said. And getting lots of comments. LT, you are beautiful. I can relate to this. Love you, LT. That's from Raylene. Raylene is a client of LT's
Yeah.
who has done
I
amazing.
love that, Raylene.
Tess is bawling her eyes out. So is Gina. So we've got a lot of women who really relate to this. And so I think I'm going to let each of us say something here in closing. And Gina says, I'm so lucky to have met all of you and feel so comfortable in the group. She's also in the program. So thank you to the coaches.
And see, and that makes it worth it. All of this, let me tell y'all, it's not easy to have to spew all of our stuff.
Right. Right.
But, it's not like we're just off the top, oh, this is easy for us to do. It's not easy.
Mm-mm.
But I will say that it's been highly therapeutic. And I get great purpose when somebody, and I know it sounds cliche, but if one or two people can really pull something from it, it really makes it so worth it. And I feel like all of those years of struggle were not in vain. I feel like that I have a purpose and a mission, and I feel like that I can contribute and help somebody a little bit. And if I can just do that, then my gosh, this is worth it. That's why I love honesty and I love authenticity, because it resonates with people. Because y'all, when we're honest, that's when we're going to get real results. You've got to get honest. And it's hard to get honest, because most of the time you're looking at yourself going, you're the one that needs to get honest.
Mhm.
Not all these people, it's you.
Dina says, the reason she's crying is because she always feels alone, but you're not alone.
You're not.
And that's when you realize that we all go through this.
Yes.
And that there's a way out of it. It's not just this thing that's happening in your head that you can't get out from under. Anna says, LT, you are beautiful inside now.
Oh, thank you.
Mary Lou says, LT, you have been an inspiration for me. I can totally relate to you and I love you.
I love that, Mary Lou.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's the other thing is what we said recently. We've been saying this a lot in the program, which is that healed people heal people.
Yes.
And that's the thing, is that, whether you feel like you have just a little bit of healing, like you might feel like I'm about there, like, but I just can't get past this weight thing. Or you feel like more like Nancy, where I just am in the pit. It doesn't matter what level you're at. You can be at a level like me where everybody in my life was a complete jackass and I was just surrounded by people who just wanted to hold me down. Right. Or you could be like LT, who had all these great people in her life, but still was having problems. It doesn't matter where you're starting from.
Yeah.
What matters is that you recognize that you can have the life that you want. You can have the life inside, you're physically with your body and also emotionally.
That's right. And it can happen a lot quicker than you think. I know it's a lifelong process, but you can get relief and you can start getting a brightness of hope about you within weeks, honestly. And I'm talking about years and years of struggle that you're going to turn it around and flip a switch in a few weeks. And I'm telling you, we see it all the time.
And that even with Nancy, so like the first few months of the program, she just was really struggling. So I would say it definitely, she's been in the program 21 months. I would say it was probably 16 months when she really got serious.
Yeah, it was a long time.
Yeah. But
I was serious early, so I got it quicker.
No, I'm saying
that
from the time she got serious, which is 16 months ago to now, think about that's not even a year and a half.
Yeah.
No. And her whole life she's lost 70 pounds. She feels completely differently about herself. Right. Her circumstances have changed. So yeah, you think that it's like, it seems overwhelming and you feel so overwhelmed that you can't get out of overwhelmed. Right. Mm-hmm. But we can help you step by step.
Mhm.
And that's the thing, is you don't have to do it all today. All you have to do is take the first step, and we will help you take each step along the way.
Yep.
To get to that place where you can feel as amazing as the rest
That's
of us.
right. And like I say, the dots are very close together in your program. And not only do you have a food plan and a guideline, but you've got support coming at you, not just from a one-on-one coach, but from a whole group. We've got ideas, we share things, we do fun activities. I mean, it is really a 360-degree support. It is not just in one little area.
Right. It's a community.
It is.
It's a family, actually, is the way that the
Yeah.
people, except in a good way. For those of you
You're
that
right.
have a functional family.
That's right.
Tess says, I would like you to share some things that you said to yourself to make that change. I'm assuming what she's talking about is to make yourself believe that you are worth it, and that you can change. And I know for me, that was, I mean, I think you hit a rock bottom moment first for a
Yeah.
lot of us. That's what happens first.
You do.
And then you realize that there's no one coming to save you,
Yep.
that you're
Yep.
going to have to do it yourself. And then you think, okay, how do I do that? How am I going to do this? Then you have to find the right structure and support. That's what we're here for. But the thing that I have realized about myself, well, first of all, I kept saying, I am healthy. I am, my body is healthy and strong, and it's healing itself every day. You know, I stepped into the reality that I wanted verbally first. And so we talk about mantras a lot. And I guess what I would say to you, Tess, is that you have to realize that your worth isn't determined by everybody around you or by anybody around you. You have to realize that, like, I had a lot of people saying things to me like Nancy was getting, which is that you can't do this on your own. You're not capable and competent. It's not that no one was ever saying good things to me. It's just that I was getting so much negative messaging from the people around me that I felt very low about myself. And so what I had to do was actually step out of the situation and look at all these people who were saying this and realize, like, their lives are not that great. Like, it's not, you know what I mean? Like, I have people telling me this stuff who don't have good health, who aren't that happy. And, you know, like, they're all saying these things, but what are they doing? And I had to be like, so I can either believe that all these people who don't have their shit together are right about me, or I can determine my own potential. So that would be my answer. What about you guys? Do you have something other than that to say?
I think the first step for me was admitting that the way I was living wasn't right, and admitting that I wasn't right in choosing to do it that way. And because I had, like you said, all the people around me with the negative, you know, when you believe certain things about yourself, like you said, it's your comfort zone to stay there. And part of you there's a tiny little part in there that goes, well, that's not how I truly feel, but okay, but I'll believe you, but all right, I guess I won't ever amount to anything, or I guess this is what I'm supposed to do. Or if I was a good wife and a good mom, I would just put up with this crap. And that's, you know, and that's something we've just been taught. And I think that for me, I had to do the thing where I separated myself, and I had to look, like Nancy said, you have to talk to yourself like you're the older sister or whatever, and say, look, you're broken. We're gonna fix you. You know, this isn't what you're put on this earth to do. You're not here to be a slave to everybody in the kitchen. You're not here to just people please your whole life. There's something that you were put here for, and there was a way that you envisioned how you wanted to live your authentic life, this is not it. And you need to get truthful about that. And the moment I did that, it was like, that was my mission, that every single day since that day, I only did things that were in line with that.
That's
Whether
right.
that was eating, whether that was mindset work, I only allowed stuff in that was in alignment with where I wanted to be. And it's been a game changer.
That's
Right.
exactly right. And I did the same thing that Joanne did. I was sick of being sick. I was sick and
Yeah.
tired of being sick, had it up to here. And I was at rock bottom. And I said, I'm over it. All
Yeah.
these programs, all these years, all this wasted money, all this time, effort, energy. And I'm back here where I was. I'm over it. And so when I jumped in, I didn't really know if I could believe it at first. But I started feeling better so right away. And I, like Joanne, I immersed myself in positivity in this group, and I started to believe it, and I started to believe it. And it became a runaway train with
Yep.
me in positivity. And I didn't do anything that was not going to be in alignment with that. And, nobody was more surprised than me, Lori, when you called me in June a year ago, because now I've been a success coach for a year, and you asked me to do this with you. And I felt like, my gosh, I've just started this thing. But see, you saw something in me that even I didn't see in myself. But I think that I've lived up to the challenge, and I think that it's made me better in lots of ways. And that's why I say that I'm eternally grateful to you for that.
Yeah. Yeah, it definitely, that's one of the joys that I have now, besides getting to witness the growth of all of the clients in the group, is to witness the journeys of my coaches. And
Yeah.
so that is such a joy as well, to see that you guys are changing lives. And Gina says, Joanne, thank you for sharing. I'm so grateful to have you as my coach. I'm already growing since I've started with you coaching me. And Gina just started
Right.
coaching recently. So yeah, I think that thank you so much to both of you guys for always being so authentic and transparent and honest. Like you said, LT, it's not always easy for us. It's
You're
even
right.
for me, and it's been putting, myself out there for a long time. It's still uncomfortable sometimes to be like, yeah, my life used to be in the crapper, and here's
Yeah.
what I used to look like. And,
That's right.
nobody's super proud about that stuff.
Sure not. Nobody wants to come up here and cry and talk about a bunch of crap. I mean, but it's therapeutic and it's helpful, and it makes a difference. So
Right. And it acknowledges your journey, which is important.
right.
It's important that we all embrace the journey. And that is, I wouldn't change anything because of where I am now, because I'm afraid if I went back and changed something, it would change where I am now.
Right.
You're right. You're right. And that's why I say, gosh, what a time is this. So grateful. So grateful that I'm happy and healthy and of an age that I can experience it and take it all in.
Absolutely.
50 is the new 30, as we say. So my gosh, we're at an age that we can really take it all in.
This can be the best time of your life. To anyone
It
here
is.
who is listening.
Yes.
It is, we think of, you start getting your AARP stuff in the mail and you think it's the beginning of the end, but it isn't. It really is. This
not
is
even
like
close.
the second act, and can even be in many ways the better act. So, if you're interested in joining us, please feel free to message me or to message one of the coaches. They are more than happy to talk to you about this stuff, and would love to. We appreciate you guys tuning in. We also have a special guest next week. Is that
Brittany?
Yes. Brittany will be with us next week to talk about the third agreement, which is not making assumptions. That has really impacted her life. And we look forward to talking about her transformation and how the 4 agreements is changing the way that she thinks. So thank you to everyone who's joining in. Please feel free to, if you're watching this on the replay, to make comments. We do always go back and look and respond to people. And so thanks again for tuning in, and we will see you guys next week. Have a great weekend.
Bye.